I just woke up one day with swollen ankles in 1985, and I, at the time, was looking for my first post-college job, and I woke up and both my ankles were swollen. I was, 22 years old, and thought, how odd, and that's weird, and just went about my day because they didn't hurt. It became apparent that I would need a transplant, and so rather than even preparing for dialysis, I went straight to transplant from my brother, who was a good match, my oldest brother, Jim. Unfortunately, I got the initial condition, which is focal sclerosing glomerular sclerosis, FSGS, and it's a type of thing that can reoccur in subsequent transplants. And it does look like it's still active in my body, so I'm not on the transplant list. And it was September of 1990 that I started dialysis. So now it's been going into the 17th year, and I had my fistula created in May of 90, and that's lasted this whole time as well. For 11 years I dialyzed in center, and I did well. I mean, when you're in center, you have to follow their schedule. I mean, you have to come in when they need you to come in. I joined the Carpenters Union in January of 95. Once I started working through the Carpenters Union, not only did I get insurance, I got a paycheck. Started off, it's called a trade show specialist. We make signs electronically on these big wide format printers, and then we have to laminate them, mount them onto some kind of material, foam core or Sintra, different materials for signs. And so we're making all those big signs and banners that you see at a trade show. The other part of my job is it's called computer-aided design. It is an architectural program to lay out the floor plan of a show. Travel is a priority in my life. I drive a used car. I don't spend a lot of money on other things, but I save my money for travel. But one of the things I learned was that going to a new unit is someone else putting in the needles was very disconcerting. So that really motivated me to learn to put in my own needles, and the staff encouraged me. And finally, in '99, I decided to take the big trip. The trip I always wanted to do, which was a around the world trip. And so I, in fact, did go around the world on dialysis, and starting in Europe and dialyzing in Monte Carlo and Amsterdam, and then meeting my mom in South Africa for 2 weeks, and then going from South Africa to Perth, Australia, which is really a remote place on the earth. I've visited 29 countries since starting dialysis, and I think I've actually dialyzed in 20. When I travel, they don't know me any more than I know them. But if I come into the unit and I'm putting in my own needles, and I'm knowledgeable about the process and knowledgeable about the machine, it identifies me to the staff that I am engaged in the process, and I do want to be a part of it, and that's how I'm treated. Even in center, I was doing well, but I was still nauseous a couple times a month, and you don't really realize what sort of energy level you have because you've lost your yardstick to measure your health again. So it was 2001 when the Northwest Kidney Centers and the board, and we had decided that it was important to offer more frequent dialysis at a board level. And I thought, well, I should walk the walk if I'm going to talk the talk. And I'm now using a machine that is transportable. And I took my first trip with this machine, the Next Stage System 1 cycler, in August of 2006. So I'm not really geared up for a road trip, but I rented a van and loaded all the supplies in, and my dog and I drove to Chicago via Yellowstone and the Shoshone National Forest. With these new machines just that are specifically made for home dialysis, I mean, they really, are well thought out, and they are made for the average person to use. And in fact, the average person can really, be trained to use it in a reasonable amount of time. So one of the differences that's most apparent to someone switching from in-center dialysis to home dialysis and more frequent dialysis is a change in diet. So it was mostly just thinking that I had to avoid fruits and vegetables or avoid nuts, and it was all about things I couldn't have. And I think that's kind of how I saw it. As I switched to more frequent dialysis, I could reintroduce these things to my diet, and I didn't have to say no to fruits, and I could eat a banana. I could have some ice cream, and so the diet's just much more liberal, and the fluid restrictions are much less. If you try to go home and it is successful, it's the best treatment for you. And it's because you're able to dialyze more frequently, and it's really allowing you to live the life you were meant to live, but incorporating dialysis as a part of that. And it's just going to be easier to do at home. So I think it's important to give it a try. Don't sell yourself short.